This video found you here today because you are ready to come home again. And when I say come home again, I mean it in the most beautiful way possible, which is that of coming home back to yourself. And it can only really be done in one way, and that is to stop trying to change things and to start acknowledging and accepting what is going on here within yourself finally. There is no shortcut to coming home again. And I tried to become whole and complete, to be perfect in a sense, to always improve myself, get to the next level, be successful, all kinds of things. And all of that really stemmed from me not wanting to truly come home again. Even though at the same time we're all truly seeking just that, but being too afraid and too unconscious to understand it. There is a lot of videos that talks about healing your inner child. And coming home again is to be fully whole and complete with your inner child. Your inner child is the most authentic part of who you are. And the inner child just wants to authentically be who it is. But we've all, or many of us, gotten very lost and very disconnected from our inner child. And trying to heal the inner child, trying to become whole and complete is actually not possible for the inner child. Because the inner child is always whole and complete. There was never a moment where your inner self, the deepest, most authentic part of who you are, was never whole and complete. And there was never anything that you could do as to become whole and complete. Because that part was always true. You were always whole and complete. But when we have an ego that says otherwise, then of course, as we keep repeating the same actions, behaviors, thoughts and reactions over and over as if we were not whole and complete, then reality sort of turns out in that way where it appears as such, and we have the challenges and the problems that we're so used to. There is truly only one way to be whole and complete. And that is to embrace it as if that was the case right now. Which of course is very, very difficult. Because the reason as to why we separated ourselves from our wholeness and completeness to begin with is because there were challenging things that happened to us that made us believe that it's not safe to be who we are. And this was not something that happened to you because you were being punished. You were actually being protected. The ego is not evil. The ego is a servant. It's always here trying to help you, even though it is deeply misunderstood in some cases, and of course turns out very evil in some cases. It turns out in ways that seems like this is inherently evil, this is inherently bad. Some of our addictions, some of our very challenging relationships and so on. But you see, the ego is always serving the inner child, always protecting the inner child. The inner child is deeply tied to your emotional state, and as you experience things throughout your life, you're always going through those emotions. And in a lot of cases, there's very heightened states of emotions through the trauma of what you're feeling. As let's say you're feeling a deep sense of shame or regret or anger or whatever it is, and there is a parent figure or a person around you from a younger age that slaps you, punches you, or says no, or reacts to you strongly as you are experiencing said emotion within you. Now the ego is always here serving as your protector. And so if it notices that an authentic part of who you are being in this moment has a very strong reaction to it from the world around you, then it deems this emotion not safe to have, and so it starts to do things as to bury this emotion. it starts to develop a pattern of not speaking anymore. Because not speaking makes you safe. You're not expressing who you authentically are anymore. Because at one point in your life, doing such a thing jeopardized your safety. It made it so that the people around you in your life could respond to you in a way that seemed, perhaps even was, of course, dangerous to you, to your survival as a child. Because as a child you need that love, belonging, and acceptance to thrive, to move forward in life. This is where the issue in our life actually comes from. That there are so many of these experiences in our past, and that there are so many of these stories attached to these experiences, that creates a separation to them. The greatest home that you will ever find in your life is the one in here. Yet we're all, or many of us, very separated from it. Because we have this ego that created a lot of ways to stay separate from it. Because we still carry those old beliefs and those old stories that it's not safe to experience it. And so later on in life, of course, this comes out in the form of us not being able to be authentically who we are, which is the deepest craving that we all truly have in this life. There is no greater need for our spirit than to authentically be who we are. And once you are authentically who you are, you'll realize that I don't need fucking anything. Because the only thing that I truly needed all along was me. And the way to come back into this state where you feel so powerful, as if you had everything already, which simultaneously, of course, unlocks your manifestation power, because you can say, I want this thing and I'm getting this thing, but at the same time, I don't need it because I'm good anyways. Which creates the possibility of these things entering into your life because you're operating at the frequency that is so abundant that it comes towards you. Which of course comes and originates from within yourself. You cannot be at that frequency unless you are experiencing that frequency first within yourself, without all of the things that you think that you need at this moment in order to be there. There are a lot of things accumulated within your being over the course of your life that you simply need to start embracing again without trying to change it. Because it is in that trying to change it that we're sending a very, very strong message to the inner child that it's not already whole and complete. Of course, you need a certain level of awareness to become present again with what it is that so far has run you unconsciously. You cannot become or walk home again into the realization of your wholeness and completeness unless you start being very aware. Because in that awareness, you'll once again be met with all of these things underlying your current personality that simply wants to be loved, seen, and validated and accepted. And it doesn't need it from an outside source. It never needed it from an outside source. It only ever needed it from your awareness. The inner child simply wants one thing: to exist as it is. And once you give that to the inner child, everything changes. As you become, or not become, but once again, experience yourself as whole and complete, which was always the case. Even though you feel that shame, that anger, that fear, or whatever it is that's been deeply buried within your being all this time and ran a lot of your programs from the mind. That in the presence of this again, you were always whole and complete. In that snap realization, boom. Oh, I'm home again. And from here, we'll see what happens. Something beautiful.